Good morning, everybody, and thank you very much for coming out on this lovely sunny day. I just thought it was worth spending a few minutes just giving you an overview of our activities over the last year and what we're planning to do in the next 12 months, the challenges that we face, and we face on behalf of all of you as breeders, whether you're a national hunter or flat breeder or whatever. And I think it's worth just starting by reminding you of the objects of the TBA. We're here to preserve and improve the thoroughbred. The thoroughbred horse is our inheritance. We've inherited something that for 250 years or more, others have been breeding. It's our job to make sure that in the end, when we go, we hand on an improved, hopefully, and healthy thoroughbred at the end of that. We are here to ensure the health and make sure we have the very best veterinary advice to look after those horses to the highest possible standards. And we provide education and training for those responsible to look after the thoroughbreds. The most important thing for the welfare of the thoroughbred is that those people who look after them are well trained and understand all the issues involved. Now, breeders by their nature are rather quiet and shy people. We're all rather, we prefer probably to be dealing with our horses or in the paddocks somewhere and not necessarily dealing with the politics and the difficult world that goes on around us. But in the end, we can't avoid that, and that's what we're here to help support you with. We have to deal with the wider political world, where so much that happens does affect you, and we will work on your behalf to make sure that breeders have their say where it's necessary, and we will try and influence what happens around us on behalf of breeders. So what have we been doing? Well, we've been involved over the past year with a number of challenges, and I say there will be a number more coming up in the next 12 months. So just taking the improvement of the breed, we were the leaders behind instigating the Breeders' Series on the flat for fillies, the twilight fillies. And I must thank the European Breeders' Fund who have got right behind this and backed it. There are 16 races now for fillies in that twilight, talking ratings 85 to 95 rated fillies. These are good fillies. You'll be pleased to have a filly, a tough handicapping filly of 85 to 95, just below black type. And the EBF have put a large amount of money into that series, and we end up with 4 races over different distances worth 50,000 each at Newmarket in October. And that was very much an initiative from the TBA. And obviously we produced a couple of years ago our Stayers report. And I'm absolutely delighted we've got Ruth Quinn here to talk to you about that. But the BHA and the European Patent Committee have taken on board the issues over Stayers. And I'm absolutely delighted with the progress they've made. You'll see some of the things that Ruth will tell you what they're doing, some of the statistics. But we needed to highlight the issue of the decline in the Stayers, particularly as we should be responsible as breeders for the entire diversity of the breed, not just one end or the other. And that's why we're picking on Stayers, because they were in decline, but we must be conscious of looking after all of them. The TBA has supported some fillies staying handicaps as well, just a few, but they've all been very popular, and it gives those fillies a chance to shine later on in the season. It's easy to forget that plus 10, something we've all got used to living with now, was a TBA initiative. It's something that we started just a few years ago, and it has now almost become embedded in the system. And I'm absolutely delighted that plus 10 has gone so well. We are looking to expand plus 10 to more races next year. I'll come on to the funding in a minute, but that we have secured extra funding for plus 10 for the next 3 years. So there will be more races, principally 3-year-old races, supported next year, I very much hope. And I would just remind you that some registration timing coming up very soon, the end of June and July for yearlings and foals. And I can't quite work out why the few people who aren't registering plus 10 aren't doing so. This is a real opportunity for both you, if you're selling horses or if you're racing them yourselves, to get that extra bonus. So please support plus 10. It's been well received, and even our Irish colleagues have now recognised that this is a good scheme. We've also instigated MOPS, the Mayor's Owners Premium Scheme for the National Hunt side, and that has just started to get traction. We've seen in the recent sales how suddenly people would like to buy fillies and mares to race for National Hunt World. It's incredibly important that those breeders, those few National Hunt breeders we have, and when they have a filly, they think, oh, it's a disaster, we're not going to be able to sell it. I think it's just incredibly important that they now see a way through. And we as the TBA have been at the forefront of pushing to have more fillies and mares races on the National Hunt side. There are more races now, and I think you'll see every major yard in the country now will have quite a number of mares in there. Every racing yard will have mares in their numbers. And that's an exciting change. The fact we've got used to it, but the National Hunt, we must have mares races. We're producing these fillies and mares, and we're not giving them an opportunity, but we are now, and I'm delighted that that's moving on. Just turning to the health and veterinary side, we constantly support the monitoring of disease through the AHT. Animal Health Trust is our team who look after and monitor disease. And of course, the recent outbreak in Yorkshire is an example in point. And the most important thing for us is that we know where outbreaks are, where they are around the world, and are ready to deal with them. If you catch an outbreak early, then you sort it out. And I think that's the most important thing for us, is to make sure that we are on top of that. We're ready to act. We work with the European Federation of Thoroughbred Breeders Associations and the International Thoroughbred Breeders Federation in not only monitoring diseases, but trying to make sure that there are appropriate vaccines to deal with horses. This has become a big issue. I'm afraid that horse vaccines and horse medicines are quite low on the priority list of the major pharmaceutical companies. But we have to work together, and if we work together internationally, we can make them sit up and realise that it's worthwhile producing these vaccines. It is a concern for the future, but we are on the case, and we are working with all our colleagues around the world to make sure that happens. We obviously support quite a lot of research, as much good research as we can find, and you'll hear from Belinda Rose later on early pregnancy loss, supported again by the TBA, and Laura Peachy on the parasites and their hosts. Those are both research projects supported by the TBA. We're also working with the regulators, and I think we have to accept that nowadays the welfare and traceability of the horse is going to become more and more important. And that does mean that where a horse is from very early in being born, with 30 days of being born, all the way through its life, and the welfare side, it's growing around the world. If we want to trade internationally, it's going to be incredibly important that we have as good a standards or higher standards than everybody else. And we're trying to work with the regulator to make sure that this is done in a fairly light touch, so that we don't have draconian and difficult rules or difficult paperwork for all of you to go with. So we will try and make sure that whatever the rules are, they're proportionate. I've talked about education and training, and we continue to run courses, and you know many of the courses, obviously for mare owners, stud staff, and of course the seminars like this. And we hope that they're all helpful and useful, but they're only as good as the ones you tell us that you want to hear. So if you want to hear about any subjects we want to produce, you have a form to fill in later on, then do please tell us what you'd like to hear about. And we promote careers in racing. I know Caroline trundles around the schools and colleges explaining what you can do in the breeding world, and I hopefully brings people in to understand that this is a very rewarding industry to be involved in. And we're working with the BHA. They're having a big recruitment drive to try and bring more people into racing. Obviously a big issue in stable staff, but clearly also an issue on studs. So we're working closely with them to make sure that the whole industry is more appealing. And you'll hear today from Paul Greaves and Tabby Smith about a new initiative we're doing on the national stud. And this has really come about because we've listened to those people who have had younger trainees, the 16 to 18-year-olds, coming through our system, very much the government's apprentice system, and are probably not quite ready for the stud work that we give them. Probably just slightly immature. I don't know why that is, why that world has changed, but we have now an exciting new initiative to deal with older people, and they'll explain that to you. So those are the three main objectives, and of course I can't really leave out the other one, which is the political world in which we live. And on top of that agenda is Brexit. Brexit, it has the potential to be a real issue for us all, breeders and for racehorses as well. And the TBA has been on the case of Brexit for some 9 months now, quite clearly since it was coming. And for that reason, I am chairing the cross-industry steering group on Brexit. So we're working with the BHA, Weatherbiz and others to make sure that we are ready to deal with Brexit. We're getting all the facts and figures. I think the most important thing is to understand exactly what is going on. We're so used to moving our horses to Ireland and to France, and a lot of the Irish horses going to France come through the UK, and we're just taking it for granted. And we need to understand how many horses are moving, the value, and all that sort of thing, so that we can persuade the politicians that this is really important and has to work. There was a tripartite agreement between England, Ireland and France before we joined the European community, and we want to get back to as closely to that as we possibly can. That's our job. That's what we'll try and work to. But we must be ready and prepared for anything, and I think we're all concerned as to what might come along next. But as long as we're all working together, I think it's a real chance. And of course, the one big advantage is that we have, again, the European Federation of Thoroughbred Breeders Associations, the European and Mediterranean Horse Racing Federation, and DEFRA, our own government. We can all work together. The Irish and the French will do a lot of the spade work for us in Brussels. In the end, we have to work with them and try and all achieve the same result. But do be aware, Brexit is going to take a lot of time, a lot of energy, and a lot of heartache, I suspect, before we get to the other end in 18 months or 20 months' time. So looking ahead, a few other issues. We're going to have a new racing authority, which is very exciting. That should be up and running fairly soon to replace the levy board. Of course, it's been very easy to complain that the levy board didn't dish out the money where we wanted it. Now we'll have a racing authority which we run, so it'll be up to us. We blame ourselves if we get it wrong, so you know who's going to be hit over the head if we get this wrong. It's an exciting opportunity, but we must spend the new money that comes in wisely. We really must think hard about it. Just spreading it thinly across the board is not going to work. There's some good initiatives coming through, but I would countenance going carefully. We're building up, hopefully, when we know how much money is coming, we'll build up some reserves this year, and then go with some good initiatives next year, and then perhaps some better ones, some further ones the following year. But it's a once-in-a-lifetime chance, extra money coming into the sport. We must use it sensibly. We're going to have a revised BHA members committee, which is going to agree much more on policy, which we sit on there. And I think that's important that we decide on the policy for the industry at a higher level and then leave it to the technicians to make it work. The Horsemen's Group, of which we're obviously an important member, is going to have to negotiate a new prize money agreement for next year. Obviously, the levy replacement and the extra money going in from the levy replacement will be very important as part of that, but the most important part of that is the new media deals. There are some very significant new media deals, not done with every racecourse. ARC have some issues still to resolve, but there are going to be some very significant increase in money flowing to the racecourses. And it's only fair that the horsemen receive some of that. There are going to be some interesting incentives to racecourses to make sure they get more runners. And I'm going to be fascinated to see how some of those racecourses react, how they think about doing this, because there should be some really inventive ways of persuading us to run our horses at A rather than B. Not just a better lunch or another free drink, but there must be some clever ways of doing that. We will continue to promote British success. We've done quite a lot of that through GBRI, Great British Racing, and Philip will talk about that in a minute. But I must congratulate the National Hunt Breeders on the success at Cheltenham. There was a really surprise, considering how small our industry is, a number of very, very great successes in the major races for the British-bred horses. So that was always good. And there will always be challenges in disease outbreaks. We update our code of practice with the help of the levy board every year, and you all get a copy either online or get sent one. Please keep it somewhere where you can find it. Don't put it away in a drawer, because if you have a problem, go to it. tells you exactly what to do. It is the most important document you've got on your stud if there's something goes wrong. Because if we have a disease outbreak, if we can contain it, we're fine. The moment we stop, we hide, pretend it hasn't happened, we're in trouble. We must be aware of that. It's always going to be a challenge. And of course, we're going to make sure that breeders' voices, as I said, are heard in all the areas where they should be heard. And we are spreading our wings. Unfortunately, I asked Claire, our new CEO, to produce a chart of all the various bodies that we sit on or should be sitting on. It is horrifying. I think she was horrified by it. Somehow we have to share that load. But if we're not there, people are making decisions that affect you, and they're not necessarily decisions you'd like to hear. But I say, above all, we're here to do the best we can to look after your interests as members. That's what we're here for. That's what we exist for. So please help us, I say, by letting us know what you're interested in and what we can do to support you as breeders. So thank you. We've got a lot on, and we've got a lot coming up, but we will keep on the case for all of you. Thank you.